How free are you in character, on stage, screen, whatever the medium? How free is it possible for any of us to be in character in whatever medium we may be performing? How free is it possible to be, bearing in mind the language that we're often using, if we're doing a film, telly, play, radio, whatever, has obviously been written by a scriptwriter, playwright, whatever else, prior to us performing it. The words, in effect, aren't our own. Somehow we've got to make them our own. Where is there freedom to be had within all of that? Well, I would argue that in some ways, the more you apply by way of objectives, actions, given circumstances, the freer it's possible to be. In some ways it sounds counterintuitive because you're adding more and more information that should, by rights, constrict you in terms of your behaviour, but actually it does the opposite. At ICAT, and certainly in my own working life, we use a methodology that was taught to me by a great man called Mike Alfreds, who's a wonderful director and practitioner and teaches for us as well. And Mike has led a great many actors to real freedom. People like Mark Rylance, for example, Pam Ferris. Lots of kind of Hollywood A-listers are now coming over to work with Mike on the back of a lot of Mark Rylance's success. And what they're seeking is the kind of freedom that actors like Mark Rylance, for example, seem to demonstrate well, by the bucket load whenever you watch them on stage, screen or whatever. Well, Mike, on the back of Stanislavski's brilliant work, managed to achieve was to create a system or an approach to rehearsal whereby actors are very specific about what they're doing to the other person in the scene. And what that does is it creates a skeletal structure through the play where we know exactly what we're doing to somebody else, moment by moment, beat by beat. All we have to do is play those actions, and we'll do a video on actions very shortly, but we have to play those moments, play those intentions, moment by moment, and receive the intentions of the characters we're opposite. And what we have there is a very specific journey through the play. Now, again, what most people worry about on the back of that is, well, if I am planning ahead of the game what I'm going to be doing moment by moment, so let's say in one of my beats I am challenging somebody, and then in the next beat I am blocking somebody, and then the next beat I'm welcoming somebody. If all of that has been worked out prior to the day, so to speak, well, where's the freedom in that? It's very restrictive. Actually, it's not. You see, what I would argue is that there is no freedom without structure. There is no freedom without structure. Peter Hall, the brilliant creator of the Royal Shakespeare Company, said there is no feeling without form. There's no feeling without form. In a way, it's the same thing. If I was to take a play text, read it through once or twice, get familiar with what seems to be going on, jump up on my feet and just give it a go, it would probably be okay. I might have appropriate energy, I might have an appropriate mood, I might be very flexible in terms of what I'm playing moment by moment. It could be, it could be fairly decent, but it's not very specific. You see, where there is structure, there is freedom, and where there is specificity, there is also freedom. If I know what I'm doing to you moment by moment, that's the what. That's what my character is doing. How I do those things can change night by night. There are a million different ways to challenge somebody. And if I take the circumstances of the play into my imagination before I play a scene, I can play the challenge in that little moment, whatever the piece of text is, in a million different ways, depending on how the circumstances are pressuring me in that moment. If somebody plays something unusually to me, something surprising, again, as long as I know that the character on the page is challenging the other person, I can play that moment of challenge in whatever way feels appropriate based on what they just did to me. I hope you're following this. Put it this way. My wife, Lou, is fabulous. And she does this all the time. She sends me to the shops and says, surprise me for dinner. And it's a disaster because I've no idea what to do. So I can find myself standing in the freezer aisle at Tesco, like dribbling. And inevitably, it happens all the time, inevitably I will get a text from her where she will say to me, actually I fancy chicken. Boom. Suddenly I get great freedom. I go, oh great, okay, she wants chicken, brilliant. I could do fajitas, I could do that lovely chicken curry I did the other week. Oh, we could do Lebanese chicken. Can you see what's happening? So with the structure of chicken, I get great freedom. It's easy to be free when you have something to be free around. It's kind of like playing jazz. It's the same way with playing Shakespeare's verse particularly. When you have the form, as Peter Hall said, you can play it with great freedom. You have something secure to hold on to, which allows you to be free, bold, playful, and never step outside the boundaries of the stories that you're trying to tell. For me, the most worrying thing is when actors get up on their feet and they go, I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to know what my character is doing to the other person, I just want to read the text and just see what happens. It all sounds very impressive, but inevitably it ends up being often quite shallow, also very often inappropriate in terms of responses because the person hasn't taken the time to understand what the characters are doing beat by beat, and it can be often a little bit random and generalised, and as Stanislavski said, generality is the enemy of art. So ultimately I would argue that structure equals freedom. If you take the time to work out what your character seems to be doing to the other person moment by moment and what it is they want to achieve at the end, that's the what. The how you do that changes moment by moment, night by night. As Mike's brilliant book is called, it can be different every night. Yeah.